So, Dan, following on from our Energy Insights webinar in
Yep.
December, we know that there's been a lot of change in terms of non-commodity costs or upcoming changes in particular, as well as wholesale market movements, geopolitical news. Can you just explain to us what flexibility is in the most simple way?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep it simple. So it is shifting demand or supply from a point in time to provide a service to the energy system. So there is a capacity concern, and we need to relieve that capacity concern by shifting or interrupting supply and demand.
Would flexibility work for any size customer?
Absolutely. Look, it is horses for courses, and certain schemes and products are more suitable for the size of the customer, but every single person can play their part in this. And certainly when you start to look at groups of smaller customers, they are likely to have a greater impact than one single larger customer.
On the back of Stephen Evans' update on the Energy Insights webinar, he touched on the increase in costs, increase in non-commodity charges as a result of Clean Power 2030. And there's a slight misconception that flexibility will allow customers to offset some of these increases. Is that the case or not?
Okay, so yes and no. So there are some costs which can be directly mitigated by reducing consumption. Certainly capacity market, you've got an opportunity to do that. But this is less about dodging costs, because actually what we need to do is we need to free up capacity. So that has to be the kind of the North Star, as it were. We need to solve our capacity issues. But those flexibility products and services do allow you to commercialize your energy consumption. So the offsetting of those third-party costs is where people really should be. So yes, you're right in terms of we can do something to mitigate CM, but for those other ones, it's actually how do we stop ourselves from having to absorb all of these costs which are coming down the line. The flexibility is a really good way to find a new commercial revenue which can be used to offset those costs coming in.
So we're seeing quite a lot of inquiries from business customers around flexibility and how they begin. What are the main benefits to customers utilising flexibility?
So the main benefit has to be the commercial advantage. Okay, so there is a payoff for shifting your demand. So the commercial reasons are why you'd look at this in the first instance.
Yeah.
But that might not be the only anxiety you're trying to resolve. Capacity shortages are genuine, and this is why the Clean Energy 2030 is there. Anyway, we do not have enough copper in the ground. We have capacity concerns across the UK. So it is about finding ways to increase your commercial revenues, but this is also about protecting yourself from those capacity shortages. You may be a customer that wants to change from gas to electricity. You may just want to be growing full stop, and there may not be available capacity in your region. So this is where learning how flexible you can be that through process or on-site generation and storage. It allows you to realize your business goals and objectives. But I would say a lot of those initial reasons why people have looked at this traditionally have been for, I can see there's a commercial advantage to me flexing. Talk to me about those.
Perfect, thank you. And we are seeing it a lot more, especially customers who, I guess, don't have the capacity to go through electrification. In the past, large business energy consumers have participated in flexibility. How has the market evolved since then?
Yeah, and it has dramatically evolved. And largely that is with the 2030 plan, the energy plan which is out there. What we typically see are customers of any size really being able to participate. The key areas are taking advantage of wholesale costs. So something happening on a day ahead, which has caused prices to spike up. And that gives an advantage to be able to shift your volume and to sell back and take advantage of that. We're seeing a behavioural piece as well, where we have time of use contracts which are out there that customers are able to, through their own behaviours, change their consumption. We're seeing a much greater uptake in batteries on site and on-site generation, and that enables true optimization. And that might be multiple points during the day, which lead to sometimes quite impressive numbers overall. And finally, where I'd say the biggest changes is in ancillary services. So we are increasingly seeing governmental incentives to help with these capacity shortages. So there are schemes out there which customers can participate in, which by shifting their demand, shifting their consumption, they are financially rewarded.
For businesses looking to consider flexibility, is there a minimum consumption requirement?
No, but I would say it's horses for courses. So certain schemes and certain products require a larger volume.
Yeah.
But I would say is there is something for all size customers. And it might just be as simple as having a time of use tariff, which ultimately rewards for using outside of those peak hours. And those peak hours are between 4 and 7. There is no size customer that wouldn't benefit from that. If you're looking to do some long-term optimization that says, how do I pull my consumption out of those kind of time periods? But then there are some much larger schemes, such as those demand shifts where you're taking advantage of wholesale costs on the day ahead. There, where the larger consumption, and we typically say to start around about 1 meg. If you can shift 1 meg of consumption during that period of time, the commercials stack up.
Yeah.
That might not look the same for a smaller customer.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And it's great to hear that this will, I guess, work for any size customer, and we're not necessarily just focusing on the larger.
That's right.
The larger side of energy consumers. What about companies that need 24-hour energy consumption? So they're 24-hour operations, such as hospitals, as an example.
Look, it's a really good example to use. And we're not suggesting that they are inherently good at just turning consumption off or shifting it. And this is where the solutions that are in the energy world come into play. So I'm specifically talking here about on-site generation and on-site storage. So they would enable a customer or a hospital or the NHS services to be able to use flexibly, but without seeing the lights flicker.
Yeah.
So they don't really care if they're taken from the grid or from a battery, as long as machines stay on, as long as lights stay on. And having that on-site storage and generation will allow them to do that and still to capitalise on flexibility services.
And we do have, I guess, a lot of businesses that we're currently speaking to at the minute in that cold storage industry.
Yeah.
Would it work for them as well?
They are ideal. Okay. So like you say, again, another 24/7 has to be operating, but they have a unique situation that their cold storage can be used as a thermal battery. So you could perhaps chill the food to a much lower temperature than you would initially do, but then that keeps the ambient temperature lower for longer. So if you time this right and do it with some really good insights, you can then participate in those flexibility services. It might free you up for an hour, 2 hours, where you can turn all your consumption off and allow that food, that thermal battery, to keep the ambient temperature cold. So they are uniquely positioned to take advantage of this, and an incredibly important sector as well. They are sometimes underappreciated for how important they are for just general life, but also for the role that they can play in flexibility and these capacity shortages we see in the UK.
If you're a business looking into flexibility options, where would they start?
So I would, and I coin this phrase a little too often, but it's true, you cannot manage what you can't see. So the whole journey for me starts in visualization. Many people understand what goes through their meter point. So as a total consumption profile, they'll know, okay, I know that what's coming through my meter, but at individual machinery points, they're not as aware. And I think the industry can get a little, it goes down the wrong path thinking that batteries are the only assets that we have. Machinery, equipment, that is an asset as well. So understanding what it consumes will allow you to understand, oh, and if I steer that or control that individually, what consumption change does that make? And that requires a greater understanding of your data rather than just being rolled up at meter point. So visualization, how can I get a true handle on my consumption, what's using what, and how can I steer and control it?
Customers already on that net zero journey, how would they build in flexibility into their net zero plans?
Yeah, and I think this is about finding the right partner, to be honest with you. So once you've managed to get a real grip on that consumption, where you're using it, it's then working with a partner that says, okay, what's the appropriate products to put alongside it? So when there is a sustainability focus, that's fantastic. But if you decouple your sustainability from your energy strategy, you could end up having all the right intentions and then not realizing any of the commercial advantages. So find an energy partner that makes you, they really understand your industry. So what's unique about your industry? What can they see works in other businesses? Where have they done this before? And then make it appropriate to you. So what machinery have you got on site? How can that typically be used within a day shift? And then that will lead to greater insight. I wouldn't say there's one size that fits all. We've discussed there being multiple options here. And a lot of it also comes down to CapEx investments. So how much free cash have you got to invest into some of these things? But if you find the right partner, you might find there's appetite actually for that to be shared. We've all got to do our part in this. So it's not just about UK businesses. UK energy suppliers need to play their part in this as well, and help bring these solutions to customers.
And you mentioned, I guess, data visualization. Another change to the industry from, well, it's already starting, is market wide, which is going to allow customers to have more visibility of their data, which again should support in knowing where they can be more flexible.
And look, I think that's a really great point. Like I said, you cannot manage what you can't see, and having more half-hourly data is just going to help more people understand what can I actually do. So it's a really good change for the industry.
That's fascinating. Thanks, Dan. If you had one final message for customers heading into an uncertain 2026, what would it be?
I think my overall message would be anyone that is looking into flexibility now aren't early adopters, they're the right time adopters. The preparing and being ready is the most key thing. So waiting for these opportunities or incentives to come down the line and then understanding what can I do, how can I react to this, you're going to be at the back of the pack. Those who have found a good energy partner, those who have understood what can I do through processes, what are those additional things I could look at for investments, such as on-site storage, on-site generation, they're the ones that are going to be able to act agile and really take advantage of any of those opportunities that come down the line. But also, they will be the ones that are ready to deal with any risks that come down the line. These capacity shortages are genuine. There's a reason why we're having to do what we're doing as a country. And I would say the time is right now to look into it. So some of those rewards might not look compelling if you look at them individually, but a lot of the flexibility services, they can be stacked together, they're compatible. And when you start to look at all these things as a total, that's when it becomes really interesting, as well as doing the right thing. So like I say, there are capacity shortages. This isn't just about making money. This is about solving a problem the UK has. So doing the right thing, but also being one of the early ones to be able to participate and to get the most out of it.